Views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Blue Ridge PBS, the Virginia Department of Education, or the Virginia Society for Technology and Education. Blue Ridge PBS, in partnership with the Virginia Department of Education and in collaboration with VISTI, the Virginia Society for Technology and Education, is talking to leading educators about what gets them energized and how technology is being used to inspire student engagement. This is ActiVAtED Learning.
I would say one of the best things about working in a small division is the impact you can have. If you want to have an impact, you want to have an idea heard, you're always going to be able to have that audience.
I'm Tom Landon. On this edition of the podcast, we travel to Abingdon, Virginia to Tech Splash, an annual summertime professional development event. I sat down with keynote speaker Patrick Hausammann of Clarke County Public Schools, who's a leader in helping small school divisions take advantage of instructional tools, especially those using artificial intelligence in ways that help teachers and students. Patrick Hausammann, welcome to ActiVAtED Learning.
Thank you for having me.
We are at Tech Splash, which is a great event that happens every July here in Abingdon, Virginia, and you are the keynote speaker, and they're working you like a rented mule here, but you're doing several presentations, and I thank you for taking some time to talk to me. I always just like to start with kind of tell me who you are. For people who don't know you, what was your path to becoming a teacher?
So my path was fairly traditional. I always loved school, so I knew I wanted to do something in the education space, but I actually started undergrad undeclared because I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to end up. I started down a science teaching path and took my first chemistry class at the college level and went, that's probably not the right path, and actually pivoted to social studies. And at that time, it's gotten a little better, but it was really hard to get a teaching job in Pennsylvania, where I'm from. So we ended up, I got my master's in instructional technology, still couldn't get in, moved to Virginia, and have been here for almost 15 years now, pretty much solely in that ed tech space.
Awesome. That's great. And you are in Clarke County, right? So tell me, for those who don't know their Virginia geography, where is Clarke County? And give me a little bit of just kind of the demographics of your school and your students.
So if we think about Virginia and kind of around Route 81, where we are now is about as far as you can go. If you go north, Clarke County is pretty much as far as you can go on the other end. You would hit Frederick County, Winchester along 81. If you go right towards like DC, Clarke is actually sandwiched right in between Frederick County and Loudoun County. So we're right in between two really fast-growing, very urban places, but Clarke is a very rural county. We have 4 schools, just over 1,800 students, and we have a fairly diverse population with the students that have moved in, things along those lines, but we have 2 elementaries, 1 middle, 1 high, and I am in that space. I'm supervisor of instructional technology, as well as an ITRT for 2 of our schools, and I lead our new teacher program. So I'm lucky that I get to wear a lot of hats, and I get to connect with teachers at pretty much every level of their career.
One of the things I've learned by doing this podcast is that as I go to some of the smaller school divisions, they're kind of doing some of the cooler work because it's easier to get something started, right? Mm-hmm. Have you found that to be the case?
Yeah, I would say one of the best things about working in a small division is the impact you can have. When I did 1 year in Prince William County, which I enjoyed, but I didn't have an office just down the hall from the superintendent. The superintendent wasn't going to know who I was. I know everybody in Clarke, which we all know in a small town is a good thing and sometimes can be a little bit of a bad thing. But if you want to have an impact, you want to have an idea heard, you're always going to be able to have that audience.
Right. And you imagine in one of the more urban or just fancy suburban school divisions, like that level to get through to the superintendent is...
You're going to have a lot of layers.
You're going to have to make an appointment, and they're probably not going to know who you are. I just doing a little research on you on the Google machine. It's really clear from your website that we'll talk about it a little bit that you love kind of professional development opportunities. You have all of these certifications as ambassadors for instructional tools, whether it's Adobe or Google or Nearpod and all kinds of other things. That takes a lot of time. What's in it for you to go and get this extra training when you could just use the technology?
For me, I don't ever want to have or ask somebody to do something that I haven't done myself. So if I'm going to be doing PD or I'm going to be referring teacher to these courses, these certifications, I want to have gone through it myself so that I know what I'm sending them to is worthwhile. In the different certification programs, some of them very much so are awesome. You learn a lot. Even somebody that's used something a ton, you get a lot out of it. Some of them are just watching a video, and by the time you're done, you're like, I didn't need to do that. I like my badge. I'll take that, but I'm not going to refer this forward because it's not going to be super beneficial for the teachers. And one of the other things, as far as a small division, a lot of times our PD budget isn't huge. And I don't want to be the one that takes a big chunk of that to attend a certain event, do a certain thing, and then a teacher can't go to something. So I pursue constantly opportunities online that are free or low cost that I can do, keep myself growing, and leave that PD funds for our teachers.
Sure. And probably every now and then it qualifies you to get either a discount or a free something here and there, probably.
Yeah, one of the best things that School AI, Magic School AI, a few different tools. Once you get to a certain level, you can get a free premium account. And I know through our division, we can't afford like a full district one, but I can use that to give our students opportunities through my premium account that they wouldn't have otherwise.
Right. If you have one of something in a small division, that can actually be useful in the classroom. You describe yourself often as a perpetual optimist. Teaching, working in schools can be a rough place for an optimist. Kind of, how are you hanging on to that? And in the face of, some pretty hard times sometimes, what lets you keep calling yourself a perpetual optimist?
It can definitely be tough at times, but I've learned over the years and I mentioned it in a keynote, from a time when I was really big, as I finished middle school, high school, as far as weight-wise, went into college, gained even more. I got bullied and stuff for probably a solid 6 to 10 years. Like, days were rough. And at that point, I wouldn't have called myself an optimist at any point in time. But after I lost the weight, got better in tune with kind of who I was and what I had to offer, I now live in that better spot of whenever I can, and sometimes you still can't, there's usually that ray of something positive in just about everything. I didn't share it in the keynote, but another personal side for me, our son, little guy that's 3.5 now, he was actually a 5-year journey through fertility fund. So it's hard in some of those spaces to hold on to that too. But 5 years later in that process, we're in an infinitely better spot to have a little guy. And some of those same things in education, we all know education, the wheels turn pretty slow. And a lot of times I've been able to look back and realize that those wheels turning slow allowed us to have better things in place for that piece of tech or whatever it might be to actually work better and impact more kids.
Well, and that is, you were talking in your keynote. I'm sorry those of you watching this didn't get to hear it, but you'll get the idea. You talk about sort of personalization, and we've been talking so long about individualized education. Let's jump a little bit into specific technology. You've thought a lot about AI and generative AI. Do you get the sense that technology is helping us do what we've wanted to do all along, where individualized education plans are great, but also hard to do when you're in a school environment sometimes where things are moving so fast? Let's talk about AI and what you see as its promise.
I think it's getting there as far as helping personalization. I think one of the drawbacks we still have is that as fast as AI is evolving and kind of pushing us, education's still kind of pumping the brakes as far as being able to get enough PD out, enough that learning out so that teachers are super comfortable. And then on the flip side, for me, I'm very much against the double standard of encouraging teachers to use it and being super into that space and not allowing kids to touch it because we're too concerned about cheating and things like that. But as you get into it and as we get that professional learning built up, I think AI is absolutely a tool that's going to help us take a huge chunk of that time out that it would take to personalize for maybe 30 kids in your elementary room or 180 kids at the secondary level. That making a personalized path for all those kids is impossible without something that can help you. And AI is something, when you strip a lot of that personal identifiable information, things like that out, use some generalities, get good with that prompting, it can absolutely save a ton of time and let you jump in towards the end, finalize it, make it even better. use your experience, use your relationships. But in all, I don't think we're there quite yet. But I think that's just because we have some work to do to finish that foundation.
No, but I was impressed when you showed in your session, by giving it the right prompt, it's spit out, for lack of a better term, a super detailed lesson plan. Now, when you look at those lesson plans, and I know you've been doing this for a little while, are you seeing it get better about speaking the language that makes sense to what you have to turn in as lesson plans?
Absolutely. And as it's gotten better, and in a lot of cases, I don't pay for a tool yet, so I bounce around the different tools so that I can get that premium. And when it says, sorry, you've run out of your credits for today, I jump to a different one. But as I've started years ago playing with it, doing different things, it has gotten probably at least 10, 20 times better in what it can do and what it can spit out without a prompt that's super detailed. But what I've started to do, because one of the premium features typically is allowing you to add an attachment. So I've played with it a little bit and taken one of our templates from our middle school lesson planning and said, here's our template. I need you to follow this, fill in all of these different blanks. And oh, by the way, we're working through an accreditation thing. You need to use this evidence-based intervention. We also have a influence or a initiative on Bloom's taxonomy. So you need to make sure you build in some of these. So as I give it that template and explain parts of it, it's able to fill those different things in and do a pretty good job. I would say a lot of times you'll hear in this space the 80-20 rule of the AI. If you prompt it, you continue that conversation and refine it. You can get about 80% of the way there, but you still need to come back in on the end and put that 20% in to really polish it and align it to what you want. But in that 80% of time, if you're taking what would have taken you, we'll just say hours, and sometimes it could have been days,
weeks.
Yeah, you're now doing that work in 20 minutes. That's enormous. That's a lot of time back to teachers. And I've encouraged our teachers and our admins as far as if that time comes back to you, don't necessarily use that to dive even deeper into work unless you want to, or be able to use that as a way to assign more work. I think that's finally a point where, as we heard about during COVID, things like that, self-care, take care of yourself, try these things. We could say it at that point, but we didn't have a good way to save the time so there would actually be time for it. I think AI might be the thing that allows that to tip towards where we can say, here's self-care, and by the way, once this is done, you can head out.
Right. Don't just use it as an excuse to spend more time on the computer. Not to put you on the spot, but what are kind of your favorite generative AI or AI tools that you're using right now? Because a lot of us don't have time to test them all, and you're out there doing that. So what are your favorites?
Yeah, then obviously there's a long list, and since a lot of things are open source, there's more and more every day. I would say in the space of a chatbot versus a custom education tool, the two biggest ones
are... Now, just a second. I'm just going to say...
Uh-oh. Buzzword.
No, just like what... Okay, we hear the word chatbot. What's a chatbot versus,
So a chatbot is going to be those tools like Gemini or ChatGPT that is, here's a box you can type in, put a prompt in, and it's going to spit out. Normally at the beginning, just text. But now you're getting to this point where it's going to be, it's probably another buzzword, but I'll explain it. Multimodal, in the fact of you can now get text, images, video in some cases, and some of those tip you into that premium or another buzzword, but what I call freemium or premium, so that you get certain amount for free. They give you some of the bells and whistles, and then you have to pay to get more. In a lot of
wait
cases,
for the end of the month when it gives you more credit or whatever.
And I hit that all the time in ChatGPT, and that's why I try and use like Gemini as well, so that when I run out of premium credits here, I can jump over to here, use this one, and eventually I'll probably pay for something. But in that world of chatbots, that is going to be the two main ones, because I know they're constantly being updated, things along those lines. When we dip into the more education-specific side, a lot of the big ones, and probably the two biggest I use there, are School AI and Magic School AI. They're some of the biggest ones that kind of blew up and have the most bells and whistles in them. And as I mentioned earlier, they're both ones too. If you go through their certifications, their professional learning, and get to that ambassador level, which isn't the easiest thing to do, but if you can get to that, then you get a premium account that goes with it. And if you're in a coaching role, that can allow you, like in Magic School, for instance, I can have up to 250 kids in the class, which in Clarke means I can put an entire grade level in there do some amazing things with them, and then back them out, use it with somebody else.
So a good chance for people like ITRTs to lead by going through the program. You're going to learn some things anyway. Probably not something that maybe the average classroom teacher will do, but if you're a technology leader in your school, it might make sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I go through a lot of those things so I know what our teachers are going to get into. And a lot of times if I go through and I'm like, this isn't very good, I take a second look at that tool too and see how good of what it's producing, what it's doing. And just to rattle off a few others, I would also say Brisk AI is a really good one to check out. It is a Google Chrome extension that allows you to create a lot of things really easily. Another one that I'll toss out is DiffIt, which is short. And as we talk about personalization, things like that, it originally came out as a shortened point of differentiation, and it allows you to create differentiated reading things. But then on the flip side, once you have your passage created, it allows you to create a ton of different things. And if you're a Google school, it can automatically create things like traffic organizers, things like that. And if you want more tools, there's a ton more linked to my website, things like that. I don't want to take all of our time talking about tools, but
people are
there's a ton.
Feeling overwhelmed and trying to write things down. But you can find a lot of this. What is your website?
Yep, it is phausedu.com, so PHAUS edu.com, and same thing for social media. Luckily, my grandfather coming over in the 50s from Switzerland kept the name intact, so a lot of people don't spell it the same, so was able to get the same thing across everything.
Great.
This is ActiVATED Learning.
What does it mean to be recognized, and what is the responsibility behind being recognized as Teacher of the Year?
I see it as a reflection of every student I've ever taught. All of my mentors and my math coach, everybody that's taught me how to be the teacher that I am. That's really who I saw was that. And then this opportunity to give back to the teaching community and just do whatever I can to lift other teachers up. And it's been so incredible. And I'm now part of a national cohort of all of the state and territorial teachers of the year in the entire country. And we have this giant network now of these teachers who just want to better education in this country. And it's just been so incredible.
Subscribe to the podcast on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Blue Ridge PBS Echo TV.
You showed some examples of kind of generative AI, just the images that were not necessarily instructional, but helping kids share who they are, especially as we go into we're about to go into a start of a new school year here. Just talk about how you're having kids do just some image creation using some of this generative AI that you don't have to, it's not a matter of are they cheating when they're using this. It's not a plagiarism issue because you're just creating images, right?
Yeah, so I would say some of the best examples we've had, and this is actually another tool that I should have shouted out, but Canva, if you don't have it set up for your division, you definitely know that
it's in most divisions.
Yeah, it's 100% free, and they're committed to keeping it free. They give you all the updates, all the goodies, but that's probably the main platform that we use a lot when we do it with our students because there are some really good education guardrails in place, and in some cases that holds us back from a couple of things we want to create. And what I mean by that is one of the projects we did on the more instructional side was having students create graphics that went with historical narratives that they did. One of the challenges we had is the first project we did was all along the points of the Civil War. So as they were writing these historical narratives, a lot of them did them in the frame of slaves trying to escape and go to different places. And as soon as we put that key term of slavery in or slaves, Canva wouldn't generate it. So then we got to have deeper conversations about how could you describe this to get the image you want and have it be able to make that happen. And then in some of the more relationship-based, we're really just trying to get the kids to test out how much the chatbot can take and still make something beneficial. The one prompt that I came up with was something along the lines of the "This is me" prompt, which is another nod. I mentioned it in the keynote to the Greatest Showman movie, but it was about essentially what is your favorite animal, have that favorite animal eating its favorite snack, reading your favorite book, watching his favorite show, but put 5 or 6, and sometimes we had kids try and put 10 different things in, all into the same prompt and see what it comes up with. In some cases, I put all 3 of the generations I did into the keynote, and the first one came in, And the hedgehog, which was the animal that I picked, the headphones weren't on its ears. The gummy bears were kind of weird and not shaped very well. So then I took it into Padlet, and that gave me a really humanized one. The hedgehog had human legs and had a tab.
That one was a little creepy, I gotta say.
And it made the gummy bears into a fruitcake, and I don't know how that happened, but I would try it. But then the last one, ChatGPT, came in, probably the more advanced of all of those models. Unfortunately, the least amount of guardrails, so I wouldn't recommend tossing that one to kids, but it came in with pretty much a perfect image with the headphones in the right place. It had a TV, and I hadn't thought of it before the prompt, but it actually gave you the old school TV with the antennas. And I do 100% believe that it was thinking, how could you watch TV in the middle of nowhere? Well, you would need antennas, some sort of reception. But it's those ways where in those spaces we know are safe for kids, we need to be thinking about how to give them hands-on experience with these tools and not just have the expectation of you're going to use this to cheat. If we give them that low bar, that's the bar they're going to come up to. We need to set it higher and teach them about responsible use and let them actually use the tools.
One of the things you talked about was the importance of kind of establishing your goals before you, like, not just saying, I want to use this tool, but I want to accomplish this task in learning. What's a good way for a teacher to think about what their instructional, I mean, they know what their instructional goals are, but in terms of turning that instructional goal into something actionable with technology?
So a couple things that a lot of educators are going to know. What I always tell people, the short and sweet of it is it's always learning first, technology second. You never want to do something just because it's shiny. You think of that learning target, and then just like we do when we do curriculum work, things like that, you want to backwards map it. So start with your learning target, flush out a lot of those different things, and then look at those areas of that lesson or that unit you've come up with where technology can lend something, where it can enhance something you've made or level it up and create an opportunity that didn't exist. Maybe it doesn't come till the assessment piece, and instead of doing that multiple choice assessment, you're creating a choice board that gives you 3 or 4 different options. And at the simplest level, maybe that is a no-tech option. Let some of those really creative kids that want to do something artistic or even act something out, they have that option. Maybe a low-tech option of doing something short and sweet, like maybe making a podcast episode, something like that. And maybe you have some of the high-tech kids that want to do a full-on video with a project and get editing. They have text and all kinds of things going on. Even that choice brings in tech in a meaningful way. And that should all be connected to some of the foundation you lay at the beginning of the year. When you get some of that insight and information to build those relationships, those equal those opportunities you can do. If you know you have kids passionate about making music, include that in your choice boards as an option. Think about tools that you can use that can build that in as you go through.
And I would have rung the buzzword bell on choice boards, but I've found over the last year of recording this podcast that it comes up in every one. So if you don't know that one, you should look it up and make sure you're clear on that. What has you excited as we look at going, when we're recording this, we're going into a new school year in another month or so. What has you excited? What are you looking forward to learning how to show your teachers how to do?
I think for me in Clarke, we're getting really, really close to getting some guidelines together. We're forming a team right now to work on producing those guidelines around AI, because right now we don't have a policy to help steer us in one direction or the other. So we're hoping to pull that together so we can really get some...
Using, I am sure, the outstanding AI guidelines that the Virginia Department of Education...
We will absolutely be building off of those, 100%. And using that's something I'm excited about, to get a more organized plan so we can get our teachers using it, our students using it more. And on the other side, I'm just really excited about our teachers coming back. I get to lead our new teacher program, so I get to see the first group come back. And then when all the teachers come back, I'm one of those people that I don't necessarily wear busy as a badge, but if it's too quiet, it's kind of creepy quiet. So when all the teachers leave, there's no kids around making noise. It just feels different. I'm always excited when that energy comes back to the building, and I have to hold myself back a little bit because I've been diving into all the shiny stuff, things like that. And I tell people all the time, don't use it just because it's shiny. So I have to make sure I remember that as well.
Right. You got to remind yourself of those things all the time. Just a couple more questions. Who do you reach out to who's on your team when you are stuck, when you need help, when you're not having a great day? Could be one of those things or all of them, but like, you can't do this stuff on your own. Who are you reaching out to for help?
I would say it's probably a twofold. On the personal side, I'm super lucky to have an amazing wife that is also a teacher. So it's really great to have her check some things out. Even when I was preparing for the keynote and stuff today, I'm like, look through this, tell me if it makes sense. And she's like, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do this. And she's one of those, and I try and surround myself.
Spouses are our best editors, I think. They don't mind telling us.
Yeah, I try and surround myself both on that side of things, but also on the professional side with people that are going to support me and be looking out for me, but also people that aren't going to let me stay comfortable with how things have always worked. I want people that are going to look at it and call me out and say like, hey, you said this thing's really good, but I went through it yesterday and I don't like this part. So maybe you should think about that. Or you're presenting it this way. Have you looked at this tool? Have you done this thing? So I do a lot with people in my building. We have one other ITRT, so I'm constantly bouncing IT ideas and things off of him. And I am pretty active still on the social media side, a little less on X and Twitter with the volatility that happens there, getting more into Blue Sky, LinkedIn, things like that. And it's really important to find your place. Whether you want to be multiple places, it's up to you. But you want to find yourself and start surrounding yourself with those people that are in some ways are like-minded, but also those people that think completely on the different side of you, that are going to constantly push you and make you keep growing.
That's great. And so you've got, how old is your son now?
He is 3.5.
So I'm trying to do the math in my head. If he's 3.5 when he's 18, and that'll be 15 years from now. So 2040 roughly, class of 2040, 2039, something like that. When you imagine your child in an educational setting, going to school, put on your futurist hat for a second for me. And what do you think EdTech is going to look like in 2040?
I think it, in some ways, is going to be pretty similar to where we are, as far as a lot of places from when schools shut down are one-to-one. I think that device is going to change between now and then. I think it might not be a physical device in some cases. I've seen a lot of cases where you can even project a device. You're typing on a virtual keyboard. I think that type of thing could happen where the device is almost built into tables, things like that. I think by that point, and probably well before that, AI is going to be as prevalent as a calculator was. I hope by that point, we're going to be utilizing it as a tool to help us enhance and elevate what we can do, like we do with the calculator. And for me, one of my biggest hopes, because our little guy is twice exceptional with some things, so I really hope that personalized education, that support of students that need a little bit extra, is not only elevated from where it is, but it is something where when he goes to school, he feels that instant comfort, and he knows that is a good place, that's a safe spot for me to be every day.
That's great. Well, what a great place to close it. I thank you, Patrick Hausammann, for taking the time to sit with us and a bunch of friends here in this room who the rest of you can't see for ActiVAtED Learning. I'm Tom Landon.
ActiVAtED Learning is produced by Blue Ridge PBS in partnership with the Virginia Department of Education
and in collaboration with VISTE, the Virginia Society for Technology and Education.
This podcast is hosted and produced by Tom Landon, Director of Educational Innovation,
with lots of help from graphic and audio designer Jay Prater.
Additional support provided by Andy Depew in our podcast studio.
Our Vice President of Education is Dr. Rose Martin.
Special thanks to Calypso Gilstrap
at the Virginia Department of Education.
Our credits are read by students at Westside and Highland Park Elementary Schools in Roanoke, Virginia. If you like what you hear, subscribe to ActiVAtED Learning wherever you get your podcasts.
Or watch the Echo channel at blueridgepbs.org.